May 2nd, 2023. This is the Wrestling Inc. podcast, NXT 2.0. Tonight, the night after the draft. And here we are. A new era for NXT, the end of an old era, the closing of one door, the opening of another, the end of one chapter, the beginning of the next. One conclusion, one new beginning. One dusk, one dawn. I've run out of analogies. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined by Mr. Alfred Konuwa tonight to go through and discuss everything that happened. A banger of an NXT. Alfred, if you looked at tonight on paper, you might be tempted to say, kind of a throwaway show where, you know,
absolutely
in between, not a lot story-wise. But to that, I say nay. Tonight, in terms of bell-to-bell in-ring action,
yes,
I'm going to put this up there with some of the best NXT takeovers we've ever seen.
Wow.
In terms of wrestling and consistency.
It was an excellent show. I don't know if I put it up there with takeovers, but the wrestling on this show, it just kind of seemed like, especially like with JD McDonough, knowing this is probably his last match in NXT until further notice, that he's just going balls to the wall and going out with a bang. And a lot of people went out with a bang. And there was even some good non-wrestling segments on this show. I just thought this was an all-around very good show, a very good way to end a lot of stories in NXT as they go onto the main rosters.
I thought this was great, and every time when I was kind of like, well, you know, what do I expect of this match? What's going to happen in this match? And then it would start, and the spots would happen, and they would get into it, and it would just get going. And I think if this was your first NXT tonight, this probably would set up an unrealistic expectation. Just in terms of like how good. I'm not saying this was the best episode of NXT ever. I'm not saying this had some of the best segments of NXT, but I'm just saying consistently tonight, the wrestling slapped. Every match was good. And I mean, Kelvin Alexander, $5 super chat saying, I know she just started, but damn it, give Danny Palmer all the belts. We had a
very good debut by Danny Palmer.
Very good debut.
She's good.
Women's tag match tonight, the Dragon Lee, JD McDonough match, Wes Lee's match, even Joe Gacy tonight.
Yeah.
The Scripps versus Axiom.
Reggie now. He got his mask removed. So we're going Reggie. We're going full Reggie, which I'm for.
This was really, really good. So Issa is out tonight. She is already in the thick of things with Backlash and SmackDown coming to Puerto Rico this week. So look for her social media and channel for more updates as things go on there. Of course,
Issa Mania.
Yes. She's responsible. I mean, I wanted to say this the other night, but I don't want to make her seem too old. I would say, she started calling herself the godmother of modern Puerto Rican wrestling.
Yeah.
She made it all happen.
She should trademark that term too.
Yes. It's got to be a hipper thing. Godmother sounds kind of old.
Yeah, godmother does sound old. I think fairy godmother, I think of an old lady that bullied Cinderella.
Yes. Wait, the bullied Cinderella?
Wait a minute. No, those were her god sisters or stepsisters. Okay.
I like this version of Cinderella where the fairy godmother's like, I'll show you. You're going to have the best night ever. And then tomorrow it's going to be so disappointing when you go back to your regular life, like mopping up after your sisters.
Wasn't there a heel that was a fairy godmother, or the fairy godmother with a bay face? She was a good person.
The fairy godmother was the fairy godmother. She was looking out for her. It was the wicked stepmother you're thinking of.
Wicked stepmother. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
But I love that you get those confused. I love that you get those confused. It'd be a totally different Cinderella story. But no, this was awesome tonight. We got a lot to jump into to recap. Man, that Gigi JC match even.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Got some color there.
Man.
Hard way it looked like.
This was good tonight. This was a really, really good for an episode of NXT that I had zero expectations for. Very impressed with the execution. But before we dive into it, let's talk about the news. What's going on?
Well, you want to talk expectations? Let's talk expectations. Very high expectations for AEW All In, otherwise known as Cody Mania. And day one ticket sales for Cody Mania were very, very strong. It looks like AEW All In, according to Tony Khan, did 36,000 ticket sales on the first day of pre-sales. That translates to 4.7 million for a live gate for one day in Europe. Very, very strong numbers. I believe that's the biggest one day live gate in terms of in Europe for Wembley Stadium. So This is probably going to be the majority of tickets sold for AEW.
TK's coming after you in a tweet, buddy.
Looks like possibly AEW could get close to that, whether it's 70,000, whether it's 80,000. I really do think they're gunning for that 80,000 so that they can say that they outsold SummerSlam 92, which was brought up on this show. But 35,000 tickets sold in day one is a very good number. A lot of people who are apologists for AEW have taken this narrative where it's very defeatist. I think it's a loser mentality. They're all saying, oh, no, 35, 40,000 would be a success. It's fine. Listen, I've been saying this the whole time and I'll continue to say it. AEW and Tony Khan did not book a 90,000 seat stadium to sell 40,000 tickets. This is not half in, it's all in. And day one, 36,000 is indication that they are and can put themselves in position to potentially outsell SummerSlam 92. And you mentioned Tony Khan and how he gets on Twitter and how he comes after people. Well, Tony Twitter Fingers was doing his victory lap and he went after ESPN boxing reporter Mike Coppinger. Mr. Coppinger of ESPN stated that AEW may only be looking to set up for 40,000 fans at Wembley Stadium. Of course, we had that story last week about how screenshots showed temporarily from Ticketmaster that AEW All In was going to open up the entire stadium. Mike Coppinger says that they're only setting up for 40,000, and Tony Twitter Fingers went after him, Glenn. He said, lies! What a load of crap! Tell your agent Nick Khan to shove it up his ass! That coming from Tony Twitter Fingers, who was drawing a line in the snow against all those who have something bad to say about AEW All In. But 36,000 ticket sales in the first day. Glenn, are you going to adjust any type of predictions you have for AEW All In? Do we think they're going to sell out?
I think that was a shitty, foolish comment. That was a pretty biased comment from that ESPN reporter being like, "Oh, I hear it's only configured for 40,000 people." Like, it's just like, dude,
it came out of nowhere, and it was something that was very easily, proven
very
wrong.
Easily. Look at the seating chart. Yeah, look at the seating chart. No, I still think 70 is where it's going to land, because you have to remember, okay, and I don't mean this in like a Spencer's Gifts, like fart spray sort of way. This show is a bit of a novelty for the local market. And what I mean by that is you're going to get a lot of people that like wrestling and maybe aren't as familiar with AEW. But the fact there's a big wrestling show at Wembley Stadium, probably good for like 20,000 seats, because this sort of thing doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Ever.
And that's
in the UK.
Key. It's their first time in the UK where they're very popular. There's a lot of these British wrestling podcasts and sites and stuff like that that cover AEW that have been thirsting for pro wrestling, let alone AEW, to come over the pond to England. And so they are definitely benefiting from that. I think the tickets have been very reasonably priced because Tony Khan wants to sell this out. And I think 70,000 is really from the jump is what I thought that they were going to do, around 70,000. I mean, obviously it would be a big feather in the cap for AEW to outsell SummerSlam, but close to that number. They're going to do everything they can. And I don't think announcing matches and whatnot, I think local promotion and doing a lot of these business tricks, that's where Nick Khan would come in handy, huge, but obviously they don't have somebody like him. But I do think they're going to do everything they can to try to eclipse WWE's SummerSlam number, even if that means lying a little bit about the number.
I mean, dating myself a little bit here with age, back in the 80s, you would just have to hear WWE is coming to town, and people would assume that meant I was going to see Hulk Hogan, Iron Sheik. Then they might show up and they would just be like, oh, this is the B tour loop. That's one scenario. Second scenario then is you do have the names and you do say Hulk Hogan is coming to town. People will turn out and see that, even if they're casual fans. So when they start announcing Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, when they start doing media press, yes, QT is going to be good for at least 20,000 tickets in the UK. People will come from all over the United Kingdom, and the affiliated territory, Australia, everywhere the monarchy touches will be traveling for QT Marshall. But no, when you start doing the local media, when Soraya starts going on UK chat shows, don't underestimate the walk up on this. And especially if the tickets, which we saw we thought they were higher priced, actually not, they're pretty reasonably priced, all things considered. And this is still a post-COVID era where people want to go out and do things. This is where the WWE effect comes into play. Look at every story we see for every WWE live event, TV event. This is WWE's biggest gate in blank market. People want to go see wrestling live. And in the UK, you have very few opportunities to do so. Typically one, maybe every other year, something
Right.
at like a major venue. I mean, they do these smaller tours and whatnot, but this is the real deal, man. And when you get the full press behind this, plus you all have to look at it also. They've got people like Jack Whitehall, like names that mean nothing to US viewers. There are a lot of British celebrities that are very big in the market. So when they start tapping into them to promote this, like there's been a lot of bad takes on this, but I think 70 is the floor for what they're going to do.
Yeah, and between now and AEW All In, of course, you've got the premiere of Collision. You've got some big shows, whether it be Forbidden Door, you've got Double or Nothing. And so my point in that is that AEW, to really juice that walk up, should promote some surprises or some big fish that maybe they've landed, if they're able to land somebody and have a big surprise for AEW All In, much like what happened with people thought that Sasha Banks was going to show up in AEW, which didn't happen, but actually delivering on a surprise where something is teased. It'll just be hard to do that with CM Punk is probably going to be put on the June 17th show. If Sasha Banks or if Kota Ibushi is able to be landed with AEW, I'd imagine they'd be on Collision to really give that show some steam. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to have any surprise entrance between now and August. It's going to be a tough thing to do.
Well, I could see them do it. If it were Vince McMahon, he would try and book a Tyson Fury or someone or Conor McGregor. He would try and do one of those gimmick crossover matches for an event like this. I mean, which WWE did, right? At their last UK show, but that would bring people in. So I wouldn't be surprised. Who are some of the other big names right now from England that might maybe, okay, here we go. Maybe a famous footballer, that's soccer player to the Americans. But you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know. Can David Beckham get involved in a match? Like, what can they do?
That'd be a great get. If they should get some celebrities in the area. I mean, David Beckham is actually a really good name off top, but obviously Tyson Fury has a relationship with WWE, but he's not employed by them. There's no indication that there's any contract he has that says he cannot go to AEW that I know of. And so while that's a long shot, if Tony Khan was about that life and really wanted to make a statement, maybe he outbids for a Tyson Fury.
Honestly, that could get it to a full sellout, a legit full sellout, which I think would be 85,000 tickets, and they can fudge the rest with production set up to cut down the capacity. And this is the other thing. People forget that Tony Khan has deep pockets, and if he decides that it's important for AEW to make a statement with this, what's an extra $1 million to someone like a Conor McGregor?
And he's not afraid to spend with those deep pockets, especially given the fact that we hear all this music, this licensed music that he uses, and that is not cheap. And several AEW superstars have this music that he's not afraid to spend on if he thinks it's going to make them into bigger stars. So, of course, it'll be tough, the UFC guys, especially because Endeavor WWE relationship, I think they're going to shut a lot of that down. So it's going to be tough to go that route with UFC talent. But there's plenty of British celebrities. You can get the Spice Girls to open up the show.
Hey, Soraya's going back and forth with Baby Spice.
Yeah.
Inviting her to the show. And Punk's going to be on that show. I don't 100%. Care. Yeah. I mean, they're all firing on all cylinders.
See, but that's kind of the dark side of this show, is that they are really kind of loading up on the dark side of wrestling in order to hopefully sell out Wembley Stadium. CM Punk, they just brought back Jeff Hardy. Will Ospreay is a guy whose body is breaking down, admittedly, and it's because in his biggest matches, he takes these big risks and works his highly physical style. And Will Ospreay, in his home country, in what potentially could be the biggest English crowd in the history of wrestling, is going to have a crazy match that will destroy his body. So this whole event might be catamount to dark side of the ring in terms of all the risks Tony Khan is taking, the type of people who are on the show.
But this 35,000 or 40,000 seats they sold today, these are the hardcore AEW fans. And this is getting the momentum, but we haven't even scratched the casuals yet that don't register for. And this was a pre-sale. This wasn't the general public on sale.
General sale goes on Friday. So this is there's going to be plenty more tickets sold. And this is a pre-sale. They did have 60,000 pre-sale codes out there. So now you see how that kind of translates, almost like a 2-to-1 or half in terms of the amount of people who ended up coming through. But there's going to be much more tickets between now and the end of the week. So I really do think that they can touch that 60 to 70,000 range.
Yeah, and I think it'll be big. No, Ricky Louis saying, "Oh, they'll get Goldberg." I don't think that's a bad idea. I think
Not at all.
they literally need to make this like the first All In or All Out. Now I get confused. The first show was. They need to basically make this and this. Look, AEW does very long pay-per-views as is. So I mean, this should be a 6-hour show.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a long show. They absolutely should make it like Cody Mania or All In, the original idea for AEW All In. And Goldberg, we're talking about all these surprises they could potentially have. That would be a great ace in the pocket. Obviously, you'd want to do the thing that you did with CM Punk where you make it obvious who it's going to be, but you have somebody maybe calling out Goldberg similar to what Jericho did. Maybe you can have Jericho himself call out Goldberg week after week, or you have something happen to where you hint that somebody's going to be next. Who's next in Wembley Stadium? Something like that you tease that it's obviously going to be Goldberg, and I think that could really help the walk up.
No, absolutely. I'm very excited for this. I mean, look, we like to give everybody shit on this podcast, but this feels very real now. I mean, and this is not. It's just, and anyone that's trying to hate on this, like, oh, it's going to be I mean, come on. Like, right now, it's very hard for professional wrestling to miss. I mean, look at the report today about WWE's demos being up over the last year. Now, you could probably say a lot of that's the Triple H effect, better booking, younger person booking the show, younger people watching the show. But it's like right now, there's not a lot of misfires in wrestling.
Yeah, it's a very hot period. It's when you look at the industry leader in WWE and how hot they are, there's going to be a good trickle-down effect for that. And AEW, it finds itself in a very fortunate position where they're now that wrestling is hot, they're headed into a market where they're very hot. And so all parties are going to win. Obviously, this is going to rise all boats. It's always good for AEW to be competitive with WWE because that has not happened in quite some time. AEW had a very hot start. They had that Grand Slam show. They had that period where they were outselling WWE in New York market ticket sales, and now they're kind of starting to come around now that WWE, admittedly, I think is kind of starting to get a little soft in terms of their booking. I think their booking has now left a lot of questions, and with Vince McMahon back, a lot of people are nervous about the direction they're taking. I do think it was a horrible idea for them to beat Cody at WrestleMania, and this could be an opening for AEW to take over the momentum because of it.
I mean, yes, it's crazy looking at the drafted rosters of WWE and starting to do the math of what percentage of those rosters will see television on a regular basis, especially in the women's division, which was very depressing. I think Raw has like 24 female talents, and I'll be shocked if we see more than 6 of them, maybe 8 each week.
Both rosters are very deep, and you would think that they're doing it so that they can have 2 exclusive shows and whatnot. I'll believe that when I see it, especially with Vince McMahon overseeing everything and very trigger happy in terms of cutting scripts apart. So we'll see if WWE does make use of these 2 huge rosters.
Yeah, so we got 2 more super chats, and then we'll talk about our other news story. Kelvin Alexander, $5 saying Issa got to have that gigged up forehead like Carlos Colon to get that Godmother title. It's for this weekend. She made Backlash happen. You know, if people give me credit for the Moolah thing in WrestleMania, Issa gets credit for Backlash. And Bear Hudson, on a serious note, saying I wanted to have a serious discussion about the Britt Baker t-shirt. As a person of color cannot walk down the street wearing that shirt. I believe I saw that, but can you just refresh my memory on what that is exactly?
The Britt Baker shirt is in it. Shout out to Bear Hudson, but I don't think anybody could walk down the street wearing that. And that's the thing about wrestling t-shirts. The Britt Baker shirt is just Britt Baker. It's a picture of her with a black eye. And it's a shirt that the heels are using to troll Britt Baker because they beat her up and she caught a stiff shot, a potato as it were. And she's now got a black eye. And so now it's a t-shirt. And I mean, I'm just assuming that AEW is selling this so that whoever buys it, they put them on a list and send it to the FBI, because I don't see how out of context you're going to wear a shirt with a woman with a black eye. And everybody loves talking about equality. What if a man did, I'm sorry, I don't make the rules, but we live in a society where if you wear a t-shirt with a woman with a black eye and out of context, people are going to have some questions. Simple and plain. That's just the world we live in. I'm not here to make fair and make equal. I'm saying the real world we live in, you wear that t-shirt out of context, I mean, you're going to get some smoke for it. I'm not going to hate on you or anything like that. Anybody can buy the t-shirt and you're welcome to express yourself, but people are going to have a problem and you're going to get looks if you wear a t-shirt with a woman with a black eye out of context. So knock yourself out if you do it.
Let me tell you a little story for a second about how I got this gig on Wrestling Inc. originally. Talking to Raj Giri on the phone about an ad buy once, and we were talking about wrestling, and he was like, "Oh, you're a fan of WWE?" And I was like, yes, I am. In fact, I'm wearing a t-shirt right now that I for one of my favorite wrestlers, but I can't wear it out in public because it says Last Kicker on it. And I said, I've seen you can't wear a Bullet Club t-shirt out in public or people want to talk to you about gun control. And that was making Raj laugh. And then he said, "Hey, do you want to be a guest on the podcast?" And then immediately after, he asked if I wanted to host it.
Oh, that's awesome. The rest is history. All because,
Yes.
maybe if you wear a Britt Baker t-shirt with the black eye, you can take my job. Who knows?
But the Last Kicker thing, WWE they didn't stop. I think they did for a hot minute. They stopped selling those. But at the time, Becky Lynch was still kind of under the radar, so maybe it wasn't as big of a deal. But no, there's a lot of wrestling t-shirts that you probably shouldn't wear in public. A person with self-respect probably wouldn't wear in public, like the AJ Styles shirt from Impact. Yeah, there's been a lot of bad wrestling shirts.
Oh yeah, Y2 AJ shirt. There's a lot of, most wrestling shirts in general are shirts that I guess you would not necessarily wear in public. You maybe wear it to wrestling events and stuff like that. But there are some on the extreme end where it's like, just good luck explaining yourself.
I never wore my Social Outcast shirt. Just out and about.
That'd have been a fun shirt. Yeah. Remember that Jordan Miles shirt that there's a black he got very pissed off about? It was just basically a smile. Jordan thought that it was akin to blackface.
I mean, good argument as anyone who's ever seen that era. But no, I mean, there's Now, Funkasaurus shirt, I would wear that out.
Oh, there you go.
100%.
Solid shirt. I wear New Day shirts out in public sometimes.
I mean, the Dean Ambrose one. I saw somebody at Starbucks once wearing a shirt that said like Lunatic Fringe.
Yeah.
I just gave him a nod. Yeah. I know what's up, buddy. Actually, the coolest one when they did those country shirts, we were talking about this, and they had the Last Kicker and Finn Balor with the Irish flag. They had a Lunatic Fringe one where it was just the A. It was the Anarchy A with the American flag. That shirt was actually like my inner 13-year-old boy. It was like, that shirt's pretty badass. Anarchy's cool.
Yeah. You wanted to just set a building on fire or something?
Isn't it so weird how, like, as a teenager, it's like, anarchy, punk rock, fuck the man. Like, I mean, it's an attitude more than an ideology. Trinity's new shirt. In fact, designed by a friend of the show, Lauren Moran.
Oh, hell yeah. Love Lauren Moran's work. Yes. And speaking of Trinity, I will be speaking with Trinity tomorrow, fresh off of her debut on Impact Wrestling. We're going to have a conversation. It's going to be very fun. But until then, check out my interview with Iron Mike Tyson. It is everywhere right now. It's on Forbes, on Pro Wrestling Bits, all kinds of boxing scene. Thank you so much. Boxing sites have it. A lot of wrestling sites have it. Even the ones that don't like me ran with it because it is an undeniable interview. And had a lot of fun. We talked about crossover matches that could draw, Glenn. Mike Tyson did call out Logan Paul for a WWE match, which I think would be very fun. I mean, that's something you could maybe do in Saudi Arabia. You could do that on TV, pop a big rating. But Mike Tyson, Logan Paul, man, be a fire exhibition.
What I'm curious with Trinity is I want to know what it was like. Like, what was the timeline of the 2 hours when they made the decision to leave? Did they get in a car together? Did they get like in separate Ubers? What was going through their minds?
That's going to be a very hot topic in terms of what people want to know, but I'm sure that there's some legal implications that you won't be able to get into specifics there. But inquiring minds would want to know that.
Yeah. Well, or even like, could you imagine like being married to somebody that works for the place you just left on very tense terms?
Yeah, that's got to be very awkward for the Usos, for Jimmy Uso in particular. But he's laid it on his feet since then, hasn't he?
Yes. So what else is in the news before we get into NXT?
Our final news story, Roman Reigns' undisputed championship. There is confusion as to whether or not this will be unified into one title. We were actually talking about this on the Raw podcast last night, where I was guest hosting with Justin LaBar and Jack Farmer. Shouts to those guys. And Justin brought up a pretty good point in terms of these two titles. They both have their own lineages. in terms of the Universal title and the WWE title. Universal title about to be the 1,000-day title that Roman Reigns has in addition to his 1,000 days off. And the WWE title is obviously the most prestigious title in all of wrestling. So if you are to blend them into one, like what lineage is recognized? Does one go away? That is a very good question, but it is unknown on how they're going to handle that in addition to a third world championship that they've introduced. Of course, the pay-per-view on May 27th was intended to be the King and Queen of the Ring, but this was changed because of the new title that has been introduced, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, which a new champion will be crowned Night of Champions. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with Roman Reigns. He has not come back yet because that's what he does. He just takes all this time off. I don't know why they didn't take these belts off of him, but we don't know whether or not he's going to come back with two belts, with one merged belt. Are they going to do another ceremony? Or what do you think they're going to do with these two belts?
I mean, hasn't Roman almost had the Universal title for half its existence at this point? Yeah, it's been and we all know, I mean, well, I don't want to say, I was about to make a joke about the lineage of the Universal title, but no, there were some good moments in there. It wasn't all.
It was mostly just Brock and Roman. If you look at the history of this title, it's Brock and Roman.
Daniel Bryan had it. He had that eco one with the hemp belt.
I think that was a WWE title. No, that was a WWE.
I thought it was the Universal champion.
No, because Kofi beat him for that belt. Now it's the WWE title.
But Bray turned the Universal title.
He turned that into
title
to his face.
And then it became blue.
Yes,
after that was the switch over. Got it.
Finn Balor, of course, was the first to win it. Seth Rollins was champion for a little bit there.
Kevin Owens.
Yeah. Goldberg had the title for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. At first, I mean, it felt very manufactured, like we need a second title, you know, when they did the brand split. So I don't know. I think, but with Roman, it's, I think the bigger question is the tag belts. Or are Sammy and Kevin going to float between both brands? But it seems weird to have these stacked tag divisions on each brand.
Yeah, with one champion.
With one championship.
It'll be interesting because the Bloodline is on SmackDown. So all the Bloodline is on SmackDown. Kevin and Sammy were drafted to Raw.
Which makes no sense. I thought they were going to break up the Bloodline.
So yeah, I thought they were going to have them, and I'm kind of glad they didn't do this. That they didn't dilute it by having two different bloodlines. But Kevin and Sammy being on Raw as the Raw and SmackDown champions, you got to wonder. And this is my big problem with the draft: is all these unanswered questions we now have, all these rules that always seem to change on the fly that they do not explain. And I don't think WWE knows the answer to how they're going to handle Kevin and Sammy on Raw.
Yeah, you know, maybe if the Usos and Solo lose at Backlash, we could still have a swap happen with the booking and they get banished to Raw and Sammy and Kevin come over to SmackDown.
Yeah, I mean, they just had the draft, so it'd be kind of weird to just rewrite your rules like that. And that's what it would come
It would be kind of weird. That would be like a Super Vince thing to do.
That's what I'm saying, but that's not good. We don't want, like, we just got out of this era where everything was planned and we had predictability that was really good because it was a story they're telling. And now we're going right back to this. Things are changing at the last second. There's all this craziness happening backstage that they can't account for. And that's what I'm saying, man. The door is open for AEW to now overtake the momentum.
Well, or what if Sammy and KO and Riddle lose, and then Sammy and KO are so annoyed by Riddle, they beg to be drafted to SmackDown?
They really need to spice up these rules. I submit that whenever they have to do these belt swaps, if you're in a position where you have to swap your belts, you also have to swap your spouse. So if we're going to make it fun, if we're going to have different rules, we swap belts, we swap spouses. So Rhea Ripley, Montez Ford, congratulations. It's a match. Bianca, Buddy Matthews, it's a match.
Oh, you're going to pair with Dominic?
Oh, that's right. Well, if we're going kayfabe, yeah, then Bianca would be with Dominic.
Marie Johnson, $2, saying, I remember the APA shirts that said always pounding ass. Would you wear that in public? Alfred, would you wear a shirt that says always pounding ass in public?
It depends on where I was. I might. If I went to the champagne room, I might.
The funniest thing about that shirt is I guarantee you it was like the DX Suck It shirts, because like my brother had one of those when he was in junior high. Everybody who wore one thought they were like the coolest, most rebellious Like people would wear that without a hint of irony.
Yeah. Just suck it, not knowing like, well, suck what? Like, can we?
Yeah.
There's also those down here, down there shirts that point to your crotch.
I guarantee you, the guys wearing the APA shirts probably not pounding very much. You know?
Ironically, yes, they're not pounding anything.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's a good list. I think I'm going to do that for Pro Wrestling Bits on YouTube. It's the top 10 shirts you would not want to wear in public for pro wrestling.
If I were you, I would get a hold of the shirts and then I would go wear them out to the club and take video of people's reactions while you're wearing the shirt.
Oh yeah, it could be a case study of which shirt gets the worst reaction.
Yeah, like the AJ Styles shirt. Walk up to the ladies, hey, what's up? Going to Applebee's with that on. Applebee's will make you turn that inside out. You're ruining the other customers' appetites.
Yeah, you're not having mozzarella sticks with that on.
No, not at all. So Kit Wilson tweeted, Shoddy, thank you. Shoddy92 just sent to me. Kit Wilson tweeted from Pretty Deadly the revival of them coming out of the water and doing CPR on one another. So Pretty Deadly on the main roster as predicted. That is absolutely adorable.
It's great.
Love that.
Got a nice pop too from the main roster crowds. That's a good sign.
They are going to be so much fun. I love that they're on SmackDown, the show that we cover.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
No, absolutely. No, I'm pretty stoked about the draft, man. But yeah, I hope we get to see these talents.
This is another good shirt. I remember that shirt.
Oh yeah, jeez. Yeah, wear that to Applebee's. You know?
Yeah.
Good times. Applebee's will be, sir, this is a family restaurant.
I'll get banned from the Applebee's.
Yes. So let's talk about NXT tonight. Oh, tonight. We opened with a recap of the draft and then went right into Wesley with Tyler Bate versus Drew Gulak with Charlie Dempsey for the North American Championship. Good length match, didn't overstay its welcome. Wesley picked up the win, but what did you think of this?
It was fine. It was good. It actually had a very high expectations for this, but I thought it almost met them. But I thought it was a fine match, and Wesley continues to be a great champion. And they're kind of telling the same story with him as they are in Orange Cassidy in AEW, where he keeps defending this title. He's a workhorse. He keeps wrestling every week, and they're asking when it's going to come up to catch up to him. Yeah,
this was good, man. I mean, Drew Gulak is an amazing wrestler, and he always makes sure his talent shines, his opponent shines. And I think with Wesley, I like that Tyler Bates kind of become the spiritual advisor to every wrestler. Yeah, backstage. It's like Bodhi from Point Break, just going around and like giving people life advice, you know?
Who's the first wrestler he's going to do ayahuasca with?
Oh, that'd be a hell of a segment. Yeah. That should be Dijak.
Yeah, it should.
Chill out, Dijak, and then Dijak like freaks out.
Yeah. And then because they've been doing that kind of Sin City aesthetic with him, so maybe in his vision, he sees people as cartoons in real life, like Sin City.
Oh, yeah, there you go. But no, this was a great match to open the show. And then we heard from Trick Williams, who I think tonight is the night Trick really established himself.
Oh, yeah.
With this promo separate from Carmelo and even with Apollo.
Yeah.
I mean, the Trick Carmelo feud is going to happen in the next 6 months.
They were laying the groundwork for, I mean, not that they were teasing any type of split, but Trick Williams getting into their origin story. He is from South Carolina. I believe he said W.J. Keenan High School, which is a real high school in South Carolina where Trick is from. I don't think he really went to high school with Mello, who's from Massachusetts, but that was a great origin story that they went to high school. They go way back. They're day ones. And this was a Trick Williams show. This showed you that he can carry his own gimmick. He can talk for himself. I thought he cut a great promo opposite Braun Breaker. I thought Apollo Crews had a great promo, one of the best promos of his career to Trick Williams. And it was just him bigging Trick Williams up, which I love. So I thought Trick was great on this show. And you just kind of got a glimpse into, obviously his wrestling is going to catch up one day, but he's going to be a full service, fully formed WWE superstar in short order, I think.
No, I thought this was a really good promo. Braun came out there. Braun, though, man, this seems so goofy now that he didn't get drafted. Finn Balor was kind of in this position when there were all those NXT call-ups after Mania in Dallas in 2016. And then Finn got drafted like 4 months after everybody else got called up. Like Braun feels like he's sticking around a little too long now.
I would agree with you if he stayed a babyface, but now that he's heel and he's scratching the surface, you can tell he's much more comfortable in this role. I think he's doing a great job, and I would like to see a couple of months of heel Braun before he is called up to the main roster. He now seems, we talked about how deep those rosters are. I mean, anybody from NXT, I don't care who you are, is in danger of getting lost in the shuffle, especially with Vince McMahon there, different administration and clashing ideals. So Braun Breaker being a bigger fish now in a smaller pond, I think is going to be great as a heel.
No, thank God Pretty Deadly are funny. I mean, look at like Maximum Male Models kind of came back from the dead.
Right.
You know, in segments they're getting. So I think Pretty Deadly is going to get visibility because Vince will find them funny. But yeah, I'm really worried about a lot of these other call-ups. And I don't want to say by name because I'm not being pejorative about their talents, but you know, this is when you get to the main roster, if Vince has any say, you know, Vince, Bruce, I mean, the people in charge, how they see you is what matters.
Right.
But this is great with Trick and Braun. So when they're saying whoop that trick, are they saying to whoop trick? Or are they saying whoop that comma trick for trick?
Whoop that comma trick. Now,
I was just making sure.
A heel chant, like when they hated Trick and they're booing him, they would chant whoop that trick, which is whoop that trick. But now that he's a babyface, you add a comma. So that's what that is. And I will say, we talk about how Vince is back and he's the Wizard of Oz right now for WWE and he has the final say. But this is still very much a Triple H era. You know, one of those H's is hybrid, but Triple H is running the show, and Triple H and Shawn Michaels, I think they're going to have more continuity in terms of bringing NXT up to the main roster.
Hope so. But no, look, I think Trick really shined tonight. Held his own and then some with Braun Breaker. This was a good segment. Yeah. And excited for where we're gonna get from as the storyline evolves. Gigi Dolan versus JC Jane. Gigi had her brother there.
Yeah. No physicality. I was disappointed that he didn't get a finisher on him or get super kicked or something.
But holy shit, this match started pretty intense with the two of them going at it. And by the end, JC with blood on her face, like
that looked like it might have been Hardway.
Yeah, this was a hell of a match, and this feud is far from over.
Yeah. I was expecting JC to win because Gigi won the first time around. Her brother was there in the crowd, but didn't really play into the finish or anything. They didn't do anything with him afterwards. He was just there. And after Gigi won, she talked a little trash to him, and they moved on from that segment. And I don't know where JC was busted open. They just kind of did some kicks on the stairs. Maybe she hit her head on the stairs and cut herself.
It looked like it.
Yeah. But you know, by the time she came up from that stairs shot, she was busted open and they went right to the finish. So I wouldn't imagine that was a planned spot that she was.
Yeah, she could have been concussed. It's speculation, by the way. Or she just needs staples or something. But this was intense. This was good. I just worry that they're gonna overplay this feud. This has to end at Battleground.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it has to, but they're going to have at least one more match, which should be the rubber match. Battleground's 4 weeks away, so yeah, I would imagine that Battleground will be the final blow off. Maybe they do an angle with JC and Gigi's brother from here until Battlegrounds, and there will be a stipulation of JC gets to take her family or something.
Now this is NXT. So this is why I say this, because it's NXT. What if JC starts dating Gigi's brother?
Oh man, I can.
And then what if the final match is a cinematic match at the house?
Yeah, we could have House of Horrors, or I don't know what you'd call that. House of Trauma match.
Yeah, I don't know. This is still a great feud. I think the way I just feel like this is going start. Now we're getting into the slow motion phase. This is the problem I have with NXT, and I feel like maybe I'm a little too positive with my love letters to NXT each and every week. Sometimes they get a really good storyline and then they just drag it out. Like it just gets very repetitive and doesn't resolve fast enough. And I feel like they've done this quite a bit, but yeah, I'm still into it. I love the intensity of this. JC looked really good. And let me just say that a lot of people when this breakup happened were quick to Janetti JC Jane in this split. But I will say that the longer this has gone on, the better JC is coming across and becoming more of a star. Gigi's already a mega star by NXT standards with these promos, the babyface promo, the real stuff she shared. Gigi already has a massive babyface reaction, from the crowd, but I think the longer this has gone on, it's actually helped JC because she is getting a chance to shine a bit more, not just be this 2D villain in all this.
Yes, and she has a chance to get even more heat for whatever they have her do with Gigi's brother. I think that's going to be key. And I hope whether it's a promo, whether it's her attacking Gigi's brother or whatnot, she's going to have a chance to level up as a heel.
Jay Singh.
Jay Nettie. Wow.
Jay Nettie, solid hip hop name. Jay Nettie.
Yeah. There's going to be a Dark Side of the Ring on Marty Jannetty. Can't wait.
Just on his Facebook posts.
Yeah, you can do one. This should be a multi-part Marty Jannetty Dark Side of the Ring.
Marty Jannetty has become like the Gary Busey of professional wrestling.
In what way?
Like just that, like you're not sure what's real and what's the rantings of a madman.
Yeah.
You know? Are they still doing Dark Side? Well, I guess we'll see what happens with Vice and their...
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I know Vice is in some big trouble right now, but they have season 4 of Dark Side of the Ring. I think they've shot all the episodes.
Yeah. And JC, even with what seemed like an abrupt stoppage, JC still was beating up Gigi after.
Yeah, this is weird because she just kept beating her up and then they just moved on.
Yeah, this was a great match though, man. And then Scripps versus Axiom, which for all the silliness of the Scripps thing and this mask versus mask match, let's still remember that Axiom is an amazing wrestler and Reggie is a phenomenal wrestler as well, stuck with a terrible gimmick. But hey, here's the good news. That gimmick is over because he got unmasked. And I loved when they acted surprised. Oh my God, it's Reggie.
Yeah. And it sucks when the announcers have to play dumb. I'm actually surprised that not only did they unmask him, but they're now mentioning Reggie on TV, given the headlines over the past week. I know WWE is very sensitive about Googling things and whatnot. So when I read that there are all these allegations in a lawsuit about what they wanted Reggie to be booked at and the pitches they had for him, I thought we'd never hear or see the name Reggie again, but we did. And Reggie has got his mask off. He's there. Hopefully they keep him away from Duke Hudson or any Aussies in NXT. But I'm glad that Reggie's back because he got a big pop.
Absolutely. I think the audience, because of his skills and his charisma, will forgive the terrible gimmick as long as we never speak of it again.
Yeah. They should, and they like Reggie. You know, he's from the main roster. He's going to have that cachet. He does some great stuff in there. All he needed was to be Reggie, and I think he's going to get over.
Yes. So Brooks caught something from Kiana James. And no, don't go there with what you think your mind thinks it could be. He caught business smarts because Brooks and Dunn were in the bar with Fallon, and he just starts busting out this plan to sell off land and build like a retirement nest egg. And, you know, they're only using so much value for the bar. And so apparently, see, I'm trying not to say something salacious. I would say, so apparently Kiana James rubbed off on him.
Yes, she did.
But thank God that storyline is over.
Yeah, this is another one to your point about storylines dragging. I felt this is one that was hurt because of all the time they had to have to keep coming up with angles. And I thought that it kind of got worse the more they had time with it. So it looks like Brooks and Jensen are back together again, and Brooks is single. He curved these two baddies who were trying to buy him a drink.
I love that they were like, wow, you sound smart.
Yeah.
Want to join us for a drink? Talk to us about our 401ks, you know?
Great pickup line. He just wanted some business advice and he didn't want to give it to him.
Yeah. This was good as long as we move in a totally separate direction now.
Yeah, I think him and Fallon are going to get together.
Oh, there you go. I thought Fallon was with the other one.
No. He's just, it seems like there's some tension, some love tension between
love tension,
sexual tension. I want to say sexual, but he's never had sex before, so I don't think you can feel that if you've never had sex before.
Love tension sounds dirtier somehow than sexual tension. Love tension.
It's a tense love. Maybe they do a love triangle. You know, maybe that's
love
the direction
triangle. That actually that makes sense in a weird way. But Dragon Lee versus JD McDonough. Now you might think JD McDonough was going out on his back, but Dragon Lee, after a banger of a match, JD McDonough defeated Dragon Lee. Like, there were so many amazing spots in this.
I will go with you on TakeOver for this match. I think this was better than a lot of TakeOver matches It was takeover quality and caliber. And this is JD McDonough, who probably is looking at an uncertain future on the main roster, because as good as he is, we all know the rap with smaller guys on the main roster. Not all of them, but some of them, especially if they're not dynamic characters. So he's probably just like, I'm going to get all of my shit in. I'm going to put together a whole mixtape before I go to the main roster. And if not, if he isn't used, then at least he had one hell of a match.
Yeah, I think that, and what I mean by takeover, I mean just how stacked the card was with like quality matches.
Yes.
You know, I'm not saying they were all like DIY, like, you know, versus FTR. I'm saying that like just every match tonight was really, really solid. And that's rare to have something of that caliber. No, but I thought this was great. If you missed NXT tonight, just please watch this match. Very good. And Noam Dar just looking on like coveting his Heritage Cup, thinking about Alicia Fox, who's apparently now no longer with the company and was with the company still up until recently, even though nobody knew.
I had no idea she was keep getting them checks, Alicia.
Yes, absolutely. Love Alicia Fox. Yeah. But no, this match was really, really good. And Malik Black, $2, saying JD will be over putting on matches like that on the main roster. I feel like there's a lot of guys gunning for that spot.
Yeah.
Very tough.
It'll be tough to see if they let him, if he has the time to do that. And, you know, there's a lot of guys who can put on matches like that. It's just whether or not they get the opportunity and whether or not they can get over and connect with the fans.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that, man, like Grayson Waller and Austin Theory being on the same brand, that is hilarious to me.
Yeah. Might be a tag team. Who knows? At least the Miz is on Monday.
Austin Theory better be hoping it's a tag team, or else it's going to be Austin Theory, like, is just going to be in the shadow of, even if it's a tag team, it might be in the shadow of Grayson Waller.
The Miz should just start a stable with all of his mini-me's, since this is such
the
a
Miz
thing
babies.
That everybody says, yeah, Miz University, some of the Miz babies, yeah, like that. It's just him just teaching all these guys how to be like the Miz.
Absolutely. Miz Camp. We should do a reality show for the next Miz.
There you go. It'll be like the challenge.
He's going to franchise it. You know? So after that, Joe Gacy versus Joe Coffey. Good match, short match.
A lot of Joe chants.
Solid. Joe Gacy getting the win, which means Schism is going to get a shot at the tag team championships.
You know, this match to me was not a coincidence. There's a report that came out today that WWE has money on the table for Samoa Joe, even though he's under contract with AEW. Now you have two guys named Joe being booked in a match, fans chanting Joe. I think this match was designed to bait Samoa Joe, to force his way out of AEW.
I don't understand how they messed up with Samoa Joe twice. Released, brought back, released again.
I wouldn't trust him.
Yeah. Very odd. Very, very odd. Danny Palmer versus Tatum Paxley. Poor Tatum Paxley.
Yeah, she's just turned into the Sting character out of nowhere with no explanation.
Yes. But Danny Palmer's theme music, awesome.
Love it. Great. Punk rock music, like authentic punk rock. You don't see every day in WWE. I loved it.
No, it was really good. She got to put on pretty good showcase, some flashy moves, charisma, like crazy, connected with the audience. This was a solid debut. Again, NXT's women's division, best women's division of all professional wrestling, even with all the call-ups that happened.
Yeah, this was almost a perfect debut. I think it went maybe a move or two too long, but I thought this was really good. She looked great in there for somebody who this was her debut match. And she's really going to fill that void that Sol Ruca left behind. I believe those were the two that were palling around together. I think it was Danny Palmer was Sol Ruca's best friend. And she's kind of encroaching on Sol Ruca's whole flow in terms of her ring gear is very similar to Sol. The kind of wavy music is a little similar. It's the same vibe there. So I think the plan was to put them together as a tag team, and I think they would have made a great tag team of these super athletes. But I was very impressed by Danny Palmer. Danny Palmer, also the name of a character on the Larry Sanders Show.
Yes. So wait, let's talk about this a second. During the draft last night, did you see Nikita Lyons?
I
The
did.
audience.
She was sitting with the NXT talent in the tracksuits.
Yeah, so I wonder if return is imminent.
Hopefully, I don't know how serious that knee injury is. If it is, she should be months away, but maybe she was just there. I mean, she had to sit down. It's not like she had to stand or anything like that. You know, because
it was a sitting spot. We can,
yeah.
Well, we've learned it's all the fault of that new trainer that's making everyone lift too much weight.
Yes, the trainer is hurting a lot of people.
Which is
but you can't blame the trainer, you know, whoever this individual, and I hope their name never gets out because, you know, wrestling fans love finding victims and
okay, hold on a second. You can't blame the trainer. Karate Kid 3 Terry Silver. Hello? Like the Quicksilver method almost destroyed Daniel-san.
Yes, there is going to be some scapegoats and whatnot. I'm just saying that I hope people are. I'm wishing in a dead air because it's Twitter, but I would hope
Terry Silver of NXT must be stopped.
Is that who this is?
No, I don't know. No, the Terry Silver of NXT must be stopped. He's pushing everyone too hard, and it's causing these injuries.
Yes, well, hopefully they're not going to be lifting as heavy weights as they were before. And they find some kind of adjustment to make sure that they're not having to forfeit titles and get injured.
Less weight, more reps.
Yeah, more bumps. Well, maybe not more bumps, just more smart in-ring action when you're training.
Yes. I don't know the real story, but it's kind of it's so internet wrestling community for that to be a rumor. Yeah. Like, oh, it's a trainer. It's one trainer that's just, you know, pushing everyone too hard. Yes.
Got him trying to be all big and strong for Vince.
I mean, that actually doesn't sound far-fetched at all.
No.
Yeah, that sounds pretty on the money. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn versus Kaden Carter and Katana Chance for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship. Little overplayed where they were like, oh, a Raw tag team and a SmackDown tag team competing for the NXT tag team. So I thought a third team was going to get announced to take these titles and keep them in NXT. I'm surprised that didn't happen.
Yeah, this is okay. Another tag team division so now we have the NXT champions going off to one of the main roster brands. And it was so funny. Vic Joseph after this match was just like, oh my God, a SmackDown tag team is they're going to SmackDown. Like, he was shocked. Like, the same thing would have played out if a Raw tag team would have won these titles. So now what they do with this, are they going to be on all these shows? Who knows? This is completely unnecessary to put these two teams that are going to get drafted against each other. But that's what they decided to do.
I have a theory. What's going to happen? I could see them going to SmackDown. Damage Control's on SmackDown, right?
Yes. I believe they got drafted. Yes, SmackDown, yes, with Michael Cole.
I have a theory that Damage Control wins these and they go back to NXT for a while.
Wow.
And then there's a tournament or something too. Because I was trying to think that I'm like, who else is a serious women's tag team in NXT right now?
Yeah, they pretty much wiped them all out. Pretty much most of your tag team division got drafted.
Yeah. I think they're going to feud with someone like Damage Control. Okay, so the good news is, oh, no, wait, I just figured it out. Tag team champions, Liv and Raquel, they got drafted to Raw, didn't they?
Yes.
Okay.
Liv and Raquel.
So the SmackDown Tag Team Women's Tag Team Championships are going to be the de facto SmackDown Tag Team Women's Championships for a while.
Oh, so you're saying they're going to have two sets of titles, and the NXT title will be like
on SmackDown.
Do they even have enough women? I know they drafted a big roster.
Dude, there's
in terms of women's tag teams, though, that they've established.
They don't have the tag teams, but they have enough women to pair off and have an 8-team bracket.
Yeah, that would be cool if they did that, where they have two tag teams. So then, what do you do in NXT? Do you create new titles?
I think we do need a mid-card women's title. I don't think that's a bad idea, but I could see them using that to sit out until we get some more women's tag teams in NXT. I could see them using that as a little pause.
Interesting.
You know, I don't know
what they do. If one of them, they could just keep the NXT titles, and then the NXT titles get defended on NXT and SmackDown. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, but I think Damage Control would be that would be my pick for who should win it. Because I mean, Shayna and Ronda ain't going to NXT. But I think Bayley, Dakota, and Io absolutely would.
I can see it.
You know? So it's a great match, though.
I liked it.
Both these teams are going to crush it on the main roster if they get a chance to actually have matches and perform.
Yeah. I've always felt like Katana and Kaden is more of a main roster gimmick in terms of their entrance and the whoop whoops and stuff like that. I hope they're not just thrown to the wolves so that they don't get over, because that could be a very incredible entrance when you're running through the crowd going crazy and people are into it. That could be a lot of fun.
It's true. They need to run through the crowd, slap everybody's hands, and then do the monologue.
Drop a little MDMA, you know?
And replace the smoke cannons with t-shirt cannons.
Yeah.
That would be the key. Man. Yeah, really like this match. This was really good. Really excited to see what their careers are like on the main roster. And then Indy Hartwell is not taking the title with her.
Nope.
She has an injury. You might say, well, she just got drafted to Raw. How's that going to work? Well, she gave the speech tonight, very heartfelt speech. She dropped the title. There's going to be a tournament. Finals will be held at Battleground. And Dexter Lumis appeared from under the ring and carried her to the back. Awesome. So I think she's probably gonna have a non-wrestling storyline with Dexter. Maybe the Way gets back together on Raw.
Yeah, they've been doing these one-offs with Dexter and Indy, and every single time it gets over like crazy. So WWE needs to take a cue from its own programming, and hopefully Index will be on Raw together. I'm not holding my breath for this anymore because there's been too many false starts. But I thought that this was a very poetic way for Indy Hartwell to go off television in this very famous scene. We remember him carrying her and her putting her thumb up, and that's how she walked out or was carried out. And I thought that was great.
This was a great moment. And then perfect follow-up compared to the messiness that Raw went off the air with last night.
Yeah.
Perfect follow-up where then you had Tiffany Stratton grabbing the belt, Roxanne putting her hands on it as well, and all the women coming down there and brawling as we went off the air.
Yeah, this is really cool. I thought they shot this well too, where they had the title there and then you had the hand pick it up and then they just degenerated it into a brawl. My one nitpick with this is that they're showing all these attacks at one point in NXT, all the people who got attacked, whether it was Luca who's out, whether it was Nikita Lyons who's out. And then they also showed Wendy Chu, who was in this just inexplicably, it shows up in this brawl where it's like the idea is somebody is attacking all these NXT talents and taking them out of action, and unexplained, you just have Wendy Chu come back on TV.
What was super weird about this, and I have to go back and watch this, but they were showing these tweets and they had NXT Anonymous chime in, but they also had somebody with NXT Unknown, which is a Twitter handle that it's existed since 2018, but has never been used. 4 followers following 6 people. I don't think it's official, but they had NXT Unknown saying they'll reveal themselves soon. So this was the tease for that storyline that we will find out who the parking lot person was soon.
The assailant. It's interesting because this person, whoever it is it's like people get hurt in real life, and it's just getting them more over because now they just have to say, oh, this person hurt them. That's why they're gone. So they really claimed a lot of bodies, whether it's intentional or not.
Can you imagine if their ring name is their name and the assailant, and then it gets cut off on the Tron and it's just the ass?
Put that on a t-shirt.
Baby I saying it's the sister of Scripps. This was a great episode.
I loved it.
I really enjoyed this episode a lot. I had zero expectation for this. I figured we'd get some send-offs tonight. I thought the tag match would be good, but you know what? There wasn't a bad match on this show.
Yeah, this is a very good show. I thought this is an excellent show, actually.
Yeah, so stoked for Indy, but I think with the foot injury, if she's not working with Dexter in the Way, I don't know what she's going to do on Raw.
Yeah. I hope she does work with Dexter. I hope they have a whole storyline for them. They can even do something where they split up and they come back together, and just to give people something to root for or whatnot. But they have to have Index on Raw. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. This was good, man. What was interesting also in the assailant segment, they had somebody guess it's Carmella. We know it's not Carmella. But someone say, oh, it's Lacey Evans. She's not really such a lady.
That wouldn't be bad.
Lacey Evans coming back as a heel to NXT.
I wouldn't mind it. Why not? I mean, what else is she doing on the main roster?
She's not doing anything, man. Did she get drafted even?
I think she did get drafted. I want to say she got drafted to SmackDown, but I'm not sure. But I do think I did remember seeing her name as somebody who got drafted.
Well, hey, if you just keep rebooting the character, eventually they're going to get it right.
Yeah, there'll be a new Lacey Evans. Maybe she'll dye her hair this time.
Oh, that could be fun. So that's what happened tonight on NXT. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Follow Alfred at This Is Nasty. He's got that interview with Trinity coming up, formerly known as Naomi. Check out his interview with Mike Tyson. And I'm Glenn Rubenstein. Give me a follow. If you like the podcast, like, share, subscribe, leave us a rating and review on the podcast player of your choice. And tune in tomorrow for AEW coverage. We'll be back here on Friday to talk about SmackDown. See you next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.